for the portable headlight. This did not have a fixed headlight. It had one that they would carry back and forth from end to end. I assume they only had one. They might have had two. This is grounded. The power comes on the other end of the car, under the hood, we'll see it later, is a resistor that reduces the 600 volts from the overhead power line down to 120 volts, which is, these have a standard voltage light bulb. Even though they're a street railway light bulb, a special headlight type, they run on 120 volts. And you would just hook this on here. You want to make sure that it's got a good contact, because the ground actually went through the case of the headlight and down to the rails, which is the return for the electric power. The power for that comes from this little plug right here, and then it would be it's just a 1/4-inch rod, brass rod with a wooden handle. You stick it in there with the light hanging on here. Now, I'm told stories, and I can see how easy it would happen. Sometimes people would pick the headlight up, forgetting to unplug it, and that would make it live, because then they suddenly became the ground. They lost the ground here. This is original. We have one for the other end. We don't have to remake them. When this locomotive was built 100 years ago today, we're saying, it sat up on top of the hood for some reason, for whatever reason. That didn't last very long, and they put it out here. We do have the headlight. We'll see that later on. So all the purpose of this block is just for that plug. And I don't know how far back that goes in the life of the car, but we'll figure that out as we look at pictures. This thing right here is the sand box. When these started up, particularly with a heavy load or on a rainy day, the rail would be very, very slippery, and the locomotive would spin before they could pick up. Or if they had to stop suddenly, they needed more adhesion than just the rails on the smooth, the wheels on the smooth rails. So in here was sand, and in the car there's a valve that they turn, which will blow air through a sort of a trap into which sand has fallen. The sand trap is actually a cast iron item about this big. And the sand falls in this side, and then there's a little partition here, and then over here is an outlet down to a flexible hose. There it is right there. That is in front of the wheel, if it's properly aimed. That's a little bit off. That will spill a small amount of sand onto the rail. So when you blow air in there from the sand valve, it just goes up and over and down onto the track. These were not here originally when the locomotive was built. I don't know what they did, whether they were inside of these hoods or whether they just didn't have them and they relied on people to go out and sprinkle it on by hand. It's hard to tell, but this is a later day thing. You can also tell because it's welded. This is sheet iron, and it's welded, and that was not something they would have done when it was built. They would have riveted something together like this, or they might have used a casting. They might have used a wooden box. And speaking of wooden box, there was a wooden cover over this. They fill this from a bucket of dried sand. Most street railway companies had a stove with a sort of a casing around it that they pour sand into.